Hello and good morning, feeders. Today is December 12th, 2021, and my name is DJ. Joining me today, as always, we have Feeder Finance Patrick. Pat, if you'd like to say hello to our lovely users at home.
Hi guys.
Hey, so starting off as usual, I'll go through the TLDR briefly, and then I'll hand it off to Pat here to talk about some more important things. So, the lending smart contract has been submitted to PeckShield. Front-end development and product launch marketing lineup in progress, so you'll expect to see those in the coming weeks. The portfolio upgrade is progressing well with key milestone expected midweek. A new currency toggle has been added to the platform with 15 new options. Be sure to check that out. And the radar banner is live. 4 Medium articles will be sponsored over the week. So, um, kind of a little nice and neat TLDR there, but a lot of good stuff in there. So first and foremost, we have the lending platform here. So it looks like we've actually finished that, and it has been submitted to PeckShield. So we've had a relationship in the past with PeckShield, Pat. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting because when we initially signed up with PeckShield, nobody really knew who they were.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we had to do a lot of explaining about why we shifted over from Certic to PeckShield because at the time, it feels like when we launched, it's crypto, the middle ages of crypto, and now we're in just modern age. It's only been 8 months, but so much has changed. um,
Seriously, it's a
but
very fast-moving
yeah.
environment.
I know, right? Because at the time, Certi wanted an amount of money that we couldn't afford. It was outrageously expensive to audit our contracts,
Mm-hmm.
and we had to look for options. And PeckShield was relatively new, but they were already quite active in, you know, um, publishing what they do, and what they're famous for is publishing analysis on exploits.
Mm-hmm.
And we came across a lot of these articles, and we rely a lot on them for our internal review of our own contracts, whether these exploits that has happened in the market, whether they may or may not affect the structure that we have, because then that way we can react quickly
Yep.
if there is a risk. And we've done that all along, are still doing that. And so we went to PeckShield, and Jimmy and I, we went on a call with the PeckShield founder. He was this chief scientist for a large cybersecurity company in China. He's a PhD written, has tens of thousands of citations for his research. So he's a really, really smart guy.
Oh yeah.
So so we signed up with him, and since then, and going forward, I think we'll rely on PeckShield because we have a really good relationship with
Mm-hmm.
them, and we trust them, and they're at this point one of the best auditors out there. So I'm really excited that and it gives a lot of validation to our security as well, having them audit the contract.
Mm-hmm. So yeah,
Um,
so that'll take a few weeks estimated for them to come back with comments and such for us to answer them and squash the beef eventually between all those things.
and I expect it to work the same way. Is that they'll spend about a week going through the contract, and then they'll come back with comments if they have any.
Right.
And if they need us to fix or amend any part of the contract, we'll work with them to do that to make sure it's safe and secure. This time around, we've gotten a lot better at this because we've done it for 8 months. Well, Jimmy has, and so we prepared a lot of our unit testing internally, and basically did part of the work that they would have to do for them. So testing that all functionalities work, as we intend them to. That's something that they would have to do, but we've basically done that work for them, so they can focus on the actual security part, and so that will save them a lot of time. And because the contract is relatively, uh, straightforward, because you're basically this contract is basically just the guy in between two people lending money between each other. There's no oracle of any kind, so it's just basically one guy saying I'll collateralize, feed for X number of USDT, and you'll have to, and I'll return your USDT in, say a month. And if I do that, then I'll get my collateral back. If I don't, then you can keep my collateral. And for that benefit or that privilege, I'll pay you X% of interest. So it's pretty straightforward. So there's very little room for any security exploits, especially because we're not using oracles. There's really no risk on that part, which is usually the biggest risk factor for lending contracts. So I expect all things to be fine and shouldn't take too long. I don't expect it to take longer than a month, going back and forth, including going back and forth. However, when I think about the launch of this product, we're going to make sure that things are launched properly, and we're not going to rush things in terms of the launch itself, because a major addition to the lending part is actually, I guess it's really underrated, and I've not talked about it enough, which is you would be able to use SFeed to reduce your fees on the lending platform. So, we'll create different tiers of, I guess this is the first time I speak about it on our audio, but I've mentioned it at some point in our community discussions as well. But let me, I guess, talk a little bit about that, because it's going to redefine the way all of us look at feed and SFeed. Because starting with lending, we'll have tiers that, depending on how much SFeed you have, and depending on how much that SFeed translates to the percentage of your ownership in the SFeed pool, you'll have different perks. And in the lending part, it's reducing fees. And if you think about, if you're doing lending business in the millions, right? You'll be paying tens of thousands in fees. And if you could reduce that to zero, then there's a benefit and there's an incentive to buy feed and hold enough SFeed so that you reduce your cost of doing business. And if you're doing this lending business for long enough time, then it makes even more sense, right? So just keep SFeed, because it pays for itself by eliminating fees.
Right.
And that's just the first piece, right? And if you think about the way we're thinking about it is, I guess, the biggest tier, and it should be relatively hard to achieve, to reduce fees to zero, because then if it's too easy to achieve, then we run a risk of actual stakers not earning anything, right?
Right.
So I think the hurdle for that SFeed pool.
Pat, you still there?
And that's quite a.
I'm sorry. Yes, I just lost you briefly for a second there. My apologies.
Right. So I'm not sure where you lost me, but let me rephrase there. So
Sure.
our thinking for the tiers, the maximum tiers would be around 5% of the SFeed pool.
Okay.
It's quite a lot of money if you think
yeah.
about, if you have, even now, at this price, if you want to buy 5% of, say, if it's 5% of fee, for instance, then it's 5 million token. But we need to make that hurdle, especially on that 0% fees level. We need to make the hurdle really high, because we run a risk of, if we make that too easy, we're basically cutting off our future income for everybody, right? So that hurdle is high. But if we have, you only need 20 people to hold 5% to virtually reduce the circulating supply to zero. It won't happen, but just to give you some context about how powerful that is, because I think once this becomes the main feature of SFeed, not only on lending, but also on the vaults, you'll start to realize that there's only probably going to be something like less than 100 people that will actually own feed of any significance, because people that use the platform will really benefit from owning feed, and they will hold feed just because of that benefit, because it comes down to how much cost savings holding feed creates, right? Because if you're vaulting $1 million and you're paying 5% profit share, and every time you move you pay $1,000 just to move, right? Then it really makes sense to just keep those as feed, and that's the utility of feed. And going forward, our new vaults will have the same features. It will take time for us to basically upgrade our older vaults to have that feature. But going forward, the easier part for us is now to just implement the same mechanics for future vaults.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll also update the UI to make it clearer that SFeed has value. So on the sidebar, you might see these progress bar to show you at which tier you are. So if you make, let's say the first tier is 1% or 0.5%,
Mm-hmm.
it will show you that, okay, you have X number of SFeed. It will allow you to open up perks for the first tier. To get to second tier, third tier, you need X number of SFeed more. So this, and then making buying SFeed easier. So it'll likely mean that we may need an SFeed liquidity pool, because then it will make it a lot easier to just go in there and buy SFeed instead of having to buy feed and then having to stake. So and ultimately it creates the same effects, because buying SFeed and then that creates an arbitrage opportunity for the price of feed then to go up. So it's all sort of related, and so that's the idea that's also coming up for SFeed. And having said that, the last piece for the lending launch is that we'll try as best we can to go big on the launch event, because this is really important, because we actually need both sides of the party to participate.
Yep.
In the case of vaults, the vaults will run whether or not anybody uses. There are some vaults that have really low TVL, but they run fine.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, the lending product, it's vital for us to get people to participate. And so we need to ensure that people do. And so our plan is to allocate quite a lot of funds to marketing for the launch event. And part of that will be to go to influencers and get as many influencers, and in this case, paid influencers, and we'll likely pay them in feed and vest them, so that there is an incentive for them to try their best to get the word out and reach as many people as they can, because they're incentivized to basically
pump their own bags. Smart.
Yeah. I don't want to say that way, but I guess that's the incentive, right? And we know how the wider crypto community works. You get a lot of reach and exposure by basically everybody's attention being on the price of the token going up. And so that's sort of the effect we want to create on purpose. And obviously, if you're here long term, you'll have to expect the side effects of that coming together as well, because pumps don't pump forever.
Yep.
And we're usually we usually move away from that, because it's just painful for everybody when there's a pump and dump. In this case, it's something we have to do just because it affects the business itself, and hopefully, with that marketing and outreach, we then create enough traction for the lending product to then be active enough. So one party is going to influence, the other party is actually to go to other projects that basically offer them the ability for their token to effectively be locked up through the service, right? Because if their community are collateralizing their token to borrow stables, it effectively means part of their circulating supply is getting locked up in this protocol, right? So there is a win-win scenario here for them to get on board, and we'll try to get as many as possible, and also probably through the influencers, because all of these influencers have connections within different projects.
Yep.
So we'll go through the influencers and directly to projects and get them on board, ask them to co-market the launch, so we can reach their community as well. So there's even more exposure for that. So this is sort of the plan, and the effect of that is, if we have to delay the launch by say a month, to perhaps end of January or something of that order, just because we want to have this lineup ready for the launch, I think it makes sense for everybody to be patient, because I think it should be worth it for the wait. But yeah, just to give you guys a heads up that this is what we're planning, and we want to ensure that the UI on the front end, especially with SFeed, coming together and our outreach to influencers and projects are ready before we start to announce the date for the launch, and it will be a launch event for this. And we'll also have prices for participants off the lending platform. So we'll have a leadership board, for people that are lending, basically the top lender and the top borrower and all that stuff to encourage participation. So we're trying our best to go big on this event because we're really excited about the platform and we really want to see people use it. And so we'll do our best to make it happen.
Two questions. One, does the leaderboard offer any incentives for being first, second, third place?
Yes, we'll be budgeting X number of feed as rewards, right? So let's say it's a month long. There might be prices weekly for the top lender and top borrower, and so that leadership board does have some prices, and that's how we aim to encourage user.
Fantastic. And then my second question. Oh wow. And there it goes. Just as quick as it came. There it goes. Wow.
Happens all the time.
Oh my God. I suppose we'll get back to it then. Moving on. So the portfolio upgrade. It seems that there's been some substantial milestone progress that has been made this week. Do you want to provide a bit of color for our users here? It seems to be in regards to the price tool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the exact details because Rafael is basically, putting all his energy into building this. And the latest update I have from him is he expects some major milestones to be achieved for our midweek update on Wednesday.
Okay.
And if I have to guess, I think he's probably close to aggregating data for PCS because that's actually the blocker that we have at the moment. If you compare that, right, I think everybody knows that TradingView at the moment already has charts for liquidity pools. What they don't have is charts for PancakeSwap, and there's a reason for that because it's just a mess in the back end for PCS, and that's what we're struggling with, or Rafael is. And I think as far as I understand from Rafael, is that once we get through the PCS piece, then we're pretty good on everything else because Spooky and on FTM and some of the other places we have like BuySwap, they're pretty fine in terms of aggregating data. And the notes, I think the notes has gotten better. I haven't heard from Rafael that the notes are creating issues, but it could just be because he's super focused on things. So, but at least in terms of our expectation is that we should have a lot of progress on Wednesday, and if that's the progress I expect, then things should be moving fast after that. So let's see.
Oh, I finally remembered my second question. For the lending platform aspect, will Feeder Finance act as last resort maker or taker in any instances? Has there been any fleshed out details in regards to that?
That's a good question. I've discussed that with Jimmy as well. We were thinking about that. The thing is that where the concern that we have is that there might be concerns from the community for us to be playing around with the treasury because that's essentially what we'll be doing if we did that. Because there's no way for us to basically automate the process through the smart contract, because then we would require oracles to do that for us.
That makes sense.
Because we need to, we need to price let's say we're lending out LPs or something. We need to be able to price the LPs, and that means we need oracles to do that. Otherwise, we can't automate it. And so if we can't automate it, we need to manually do that. And that means basically the team would be, playing around with everybody's money, which is the treasury. And we want to try our best not to get there. And I think with the amount of funds we're going to put into the marketing and the incentives for the users and getting the projects which come in, And all of that, I don't think we need to go there. We're
Mm,
hopeful that it's enough to encourage users, and I think there's a lot of our users themselves that are patiently waiting to get to make use of their S feed or feed or even feed LPs, to use the lending platform. And there's also a lot of people that speak to me about wanting to be the lender. So I think there are already both parties waiting to use the protocol, both on the lending side and on the borrowing side. So I think so yeah, I don't think we need to go there just because it doesn't look good in terms of how from a decentralized aspect of things.
gotcha. Yeah, I remember there had been some discussion beforehand about it, so um, yeah, I just wanted to get that out in the air for everybody. So moving forward, it looks like we have 15 currency toggles. This is huge. I was blown away when you had mentioned that you were going to put in, 4, 5, or 6. To see 15 listed here, that's phenomenal. Really reaching out to the global community at large here, especially with some of these, large currencies, but also some of the, more niche ones, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I the thing that made me really happy was the other days, somebody had some issues with staking, and he sent me the screenshot of his portfolio, and he was using euros, and so I was like, oh, um, this is actually getting useful, right? Because there are people that are using the platform in their native currency, and
Mm-hmm.
that's sort of the intention.
Totally.
Um, so I guess it's a useful tool, and it personalizes the experience as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so we're welcoming any other recommendations for currency. If you're based anywhere else apart from these 15 countries and you'd like to have your own currency, just let us know, because I think if we can add um, this last one, the WST, of Samoan, I think. Then I think we can add any other currencies. So just let us know what you need, and we'll do that, because I don't think it's a hard add for Pandit to do that.
Shout out to our local Samoan there, John.
Yep, yep.
um, Moving forward, it looks like we have DAP radar banners finally live. About damn time.
Yep. Yeah, so they're live, and I've already, checked the data. We've seen a significant uptick. I think something like 5, 6x in terms of people coming in from that radar. So it's looking good. We'll need to do some, because it's only been a couple days. We need to do some deeper analysis as to whether the people that are coming in are actually staying and using, which we can. We can do that analysis. So staying and using the platform, and if they do, then it's an effective tool, and we should probably continue to do that. Options for this part. Um, the other thing that we've been experimenting over the past month, and this is the first time I'm talking about it, is we're reaching out to Medium writers and basically sponsoring their articles. And by sponsoring, I don't mean asking them to write about us in their entire article, but just sponsoring any article that relates to crypto, relates to DeFi, and sort of mention in a sentence or two about feeder finance,
Mm,
because it's if you and I've been in contact with a lot of these writers, and what they're earning from writing is minuscule compared to you know these crypto marketing people asking tens of thousands, and really the reach that those guys are getting is not comparable to how much these medium writers are gathering in terms of eyes and ears, from their content.
mm-hmm.
And so we've been doing that for a month. We've, I think, so far sponsored over 10, 20 articles. Um, but in terms of, just getting, a link or a sentence about, let's say they spoke about DeFi, and then there's a sentence saying, oh, do you great DeFi tool that I use, I use the feeder finance, and each of these articles are relatively cheap for us compared to the effects that we're getting. And so Medium is also now one of the most, the channel that's getting us a lot of new users coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And these users are typically new to DeFi people, which is basically our target audience. They're probably coming in to the platform directly and not into the Telegram because they're users of DeFi. They're not DeFi traders or coin traders.
Right.
And we've seen a lot of that data coming in. So it's been effective, and we'll continue to do that. And if you have any writers that you like, just send them my way because it's not easy to get them on board. But we've gotten, I think, 4 people now that are on board, and I'll continue to find more. So we get regular contents out that send some links back to us.
That is exciting. I'm really excited to see what other articles come out. I've read a few of them so far, and I've been thoroughly impressed. So hopefully that bumps up our SEO and how many people come and find us.
Yeah.
Um, I believe that's all we have for you this week, folks. Unless there's anything else you'd like to add in there, Pat?
I think it's been a quiet week for the market. I mean, quiet as in it's been volatile, but it hasn't moved much. I think the biggest news was Batcher's DAO's hack in Bitmart hack. So these hacks and exploits are still happening in DeFi. So just it's not going away, especially because of the decentralization of things and the technology being so early. So make sure you're diversified across different platforms or different networks, even,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure you unapprove some of the things you have approved in the past. And I've even read in a Twitter thread about staying safe. And one of the things that this particular Twitter handle uses is he every couple months he actually switches his seat, as in he moves his assets into a new wallet. So that's if you want to go to the extreme, that's also one way you could do it. But the best way is just buy a cold wallet, like Ledger or PayPal or whatever, and stay safe that way, and don't just go to random platforms and approve unlimited amount of tokens. So stay safe, guys.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to lose your money here, and I think just keeping some basic precautions. Never share your private
Yeah.
keys.
Oh,
New account,
and
like you said, that's always a good one.
yeah, and one last thing I forgot. Just an FYI for people, if you don't already know, there's this Telegram group that basically copies our entire group and the admins and pretend to be us, and are showing some airdrops, which is, I guess, one way to scam people out of their entire wallet. So don't fall for it. We don't DM first. We never ask for your seed. We never ask for your money. So just be aware of that. You DM us. We don't DM you. So that's FYI.
Yep. I love you guys, but I will not DM you first. So it was funny. I actually got contacted by a fake Feeder Finance Jimmy, and it didn't dawn on me until I realized, wait a minute, I had no chat history with him. That I realized it wasn't the real Jimmy. So they're even coming for us, guys. Just stay safe. Make sure you ask if you don't know. You know, and yeah, always reach out to us first. But yeah, the market's crazy volatile lately. I'm hoping we'll see some upside soon. I believe these wick off cycles are getting longer and longer, and so I think market sentiment's a bit fearful right now. But as the old adage goes, be fearful when others are greedy. Be greedy when others are fearful. And
Yep.
you know, always, always keep something in stables because you always want to buy that dip. But
Yep.
um, I believe that's it for us. Unless you have any other last minute things you'd like to add there, Pat.
Nope. I'm good. Thanks.
Perfect. Well, that's all we have for you this week, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, and all that other fun jazz. And Pat and I will be back again next week to give you more. So be sure to tune in. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.